You ever move into a neighborhood thinking it's going to be your peaceful, suburban paradise, only to find out it's run by a woman who treats the HOA like her personal monarchy? Yeah. That was me. I'm not the type to make waves. I mow my lawn, I bring in my trash cans on time, and I even wave at the neighbors I barely know. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for living next to Laura. Laura was something else. You could spot her from 3 blocks away, platinum bob so stiff it looked lacquered, pastel pink workout set always 2 sizes too tight, and a clipboard in hand like it was part of her body. She walked like she was judging the pavement. And she had this smile, tight-lipped, frozen, like she was auditioning to be a Stepford wife, but got cast as the villain instead. I'd been in the neighborhood for exactly 3 weeks when Laura made her first move. It started with a knock, 3 sharp raps on the door at 7:43 a.m. I know the time because I was still in my robe, holding my mug, and wondering why someone was banging like they had a warrant. I opened the door. She didn't even say good morning. She pointed at my driveway with her pen and said, "Just so you're aware, overnight parking isn't allowed. Your cousin's truck has been out there 3 nights in a row. No hello. No welcome to the neighborhood. Just, bam, a citation threat before I'd even finished my coffee." I blinked. That's actually my friend Marcus. He's helping me with renovations. She pursed her lips. Regardless, I'd hate to have to issue a violation. The HOA is very particular. And then she just turned and walked off. No smile. No goodbye. Like she had a quota of complaints to meet. I thought, okay. Maybe she's just a little intense. I didn't realize I was dealing with the self-appointed dictator of the driveways. Over the next few weeks, Laura made her presence known. She had a thing for grass height. Too long, she'd say, pointing with her pen. Violates Article 4, Section 3B. She had opinions on garden gnomes. Decorative clutter, she sniffed. Once, I caught her leaning over my fence with a measuring tape. "Just making sure your shed isn't within 5 feet of the property line," she said, without a trace of irony. But the real saga began on a Saturday. It was sunny, warm, and the perfect day for a backyard barbecue. My brother had just brought over his new smoker, and my niece was already laying out hot dogs like she was running her own food truck. We had music playing, nothing loud, just a bit of Stevie Wonder drifting through the breeze. Kids were laughing, meat was sizzling, and the smell of seasoned ribs filled the air like a smoky invitation to happiness. That's when she appeared. Laura. Like a smoke alarm with legs. She marched into my backyard, without knocking. Past the gate, through the garden, sunglasses perched like a shield of righteousness. "Excuse me," she said, loud enough to kill the music's vibe. Everyone went quiet. "I'm going to have to ask you to stop this. The grill smoke is excessive, and the music, though soft, is a noise violation. This is a residential neighborhood, not a tailgate party." I was stunned. "Laura, it's a Saturday afternoon. It's a family barbecue. The grill's in my yard." She gave a smug smile. "Exactly. And according to the HOA manual, open flame cooking devices must not be used within 10 feet of a combustible structure." I looked at the grill. It was 12 feet from my house. "We're in compliance." Her smile faltered, just a little. "Well, the smoke is still a nuisance. And as an HOA board "Member, I'm advising you to shut it down." That's when Marcus, bless him, stepped forward holding a perfectly charred rib and said, "You want one?" Laura looked at it like it was dripping with poison. "I'll be reporting this to the full board," she said, turning sharply on her heel. That night, I got an email titled, "Official Warning, Smoke Violation." She even attached a blurry photo of our grill taken from behind her petunias. I thought it was a joke. Until I got a second email. And a third. And then the real kicker came, proposal for rule change, ban on backyard BBQs. She actually filed a formal request with the HOA to ban all outdoor grilling unless pre-approved with written notice, neighbor consent, and permit. I read it twice, hoping I'd hallucinated it. But nope. Laura was waging a war on ribs. At first, I laughed it off. Surely, no one was going to entertain Laura's little war on grilling. I mean, come on, this is America. If we start banning barbecues, what's next? No lemonade stands? No 4th of July fireworks? But Laura wasn't playing. By the next HOA meeting, she'd already printed glossy flyers. They were tucked into every mailbox, with a bold headline. "Protect our neighborhood, say no to smoke." Underneath was a dramatic image of a family barbecue, but edited with ominous gray clouds photoshopped around the grill. It looked like something out of a wildfire documentary. Below the image, she'd listed supposed health risks from barbecue smoke, noise decibel charts comparing grill chatter to urban blight, and a cherry-picked quote from a study about asthma in densely populated areas. We live in a cul-de-sac, not Times Square. The next morning, I was walking my dog, Benji, my beagle Mix, and I passed Mr. Lindstrom watering his lawn. "Hey there," I called out. He gave me a half-smile. "So, what flavor toxins were you grilling up the other day?" he said. With a wink. I groaned. "You saw the flyer?" "Oh, honey. Everyone saw the flyer." She taped one to the community board at the pool, the dog park, and even the church bulletin. I didn't know whether to be embarrassed or impressed by her hustle. But things really started to escalate when Laura began citing people. Yes, citing them. Every weekend after that, if someone lit a grill, even a small charcoal hibachi, Laura was there, clipboard ready, snapping photos from behind hedges or through a cracked fence. Bored. One neighbor, the Salazars, told me they found her measuring the height of their portable fire pit with a ruler at 6:45 in the morning. She said it was combustible adjacent, whatever that means, Mr. Salazar muttered. Then came the surprise inspections. She somehow got the HOA to agree to a weekend sweep. Volunteers, armed with pamphlets and pens, walked from yard to yard educating residents on smoke rules and noise levels. Of course, the leader of the crew? Laura herself. Dressed in a pastel power suit, clipboard clutched like a scepter. Meanwhile, my inbox kept filling with messages. Subject lines like noise complaint, May 12th. Non-compliance warning, grill visibility. HOA survey, should we allow outdoor cooking? At some point, it became less about grilling and more about principle. Laura wasn't just against barbecues. She was against joy. Every time she passed my house, she gave me that smirk. Like she was just waiting to shut down our next gathering. It became a game to her. A power flex. The final straw was when she called animal control. Yes, on my dog. Benji is the definition of harmless. He's soft, sleepy, and has a bark so tiny it sounds like he's sneezing. But apparently, she claimed he was barking excessively during barbecue hours. which heightened the nuisance effect. Animal control showed up on a Wednesday. Even the officer looked confused. "Ma'am, is this the dog in question?" he asked, looking down at Benji curled up in a pool of sunlight, snoring. I nodded. He shook his head. "I'm required to file a report, but honestly, I've had louder goldfish." That was when I realized Laura was on a mission. And it wasn't about smoke. Or dogs. Or noise. It was about control. She wasn't just trying to enforce the rules, she was trying to be the rules. At the next HOA meeting, Laura made her move. She stood up in her matching skirt suit, cleared her throat dramatically, and said, "I'd like to propose an amendment to the HOA code. No outdoor cooking devices shall be used within visible range of adjacent properties unless unanimously approved by all bordering neighbors." There were audible gasps. She smiled, basking in the moment. This would reduce smoke, noise, and disturbances. It's time to modernize our communities. Values. The room went silent. I waited. And then, I stood. "Excuse me," I said. "But that would basically outlaw barbecues in every backyard." She turned. "Exactly. We need to prioritize peace." I shook my head. "This isn't about peace. It's about policing joy." "What's next?" No laughter. "Past 6 p.m.? A couple of neighbors chuckled quietly. But Laura wasn't deterred. "This isn't personal. This is about preserving the character of our neighborhood." It sure felt personal. I looked around the room. Most faces were neutral, a few concerned. Some afraid. That's the power Laura had. Not official power, fear-based power. No one wanted to be the next person on her clipboard hit list. Except one person. The HOA President, Mr. Harold Barnes. Now, Harold was in his 70s. Always wore Hawaiian shirts to meetings, no matter the season. The man had a permanent suntan and the energy of someone who's retired twice. And still believes in tailgate season. Harold hadn't said much during the meeting. But now, he leaned forward, fingers laced. "Laura," he said slowly, "do you remember who hosted the 4th of July cookout last year?" Laura blinked. "Well, yes, but that was pre-ordinance consideration." Harold nodded. "Right. That was me." "And the year before that?" She hesitated. "Also you." He smiled. "Exactly. And the year before that?" "Also, you." Harold leaned back. "I like barbecue, Laura. I like my smoker. I like my friends sitting on lawn chairs, cold drinks in hand, meat sizzling on the grill." He stood. "And you know what? I like a little smoke in my ribs. Adds flavor." The room chuckled. Laura's face was losing color. "And this neighborhood," he continued, "was built on Saturday block parties and Sunday grills. Not surveillance and citations." There was a pause. "Proposal denied." Laura opened her mouth to argue, but Harold cut her off with a raised palm. "Let it go. Before someone starts filing violations on your events." That line hung in the air like barbecue smoke on a windless day. You'd think that after getting publicly shut down by Harold, Laura would cool off. But if you've been following this story, you already know Laura doesn't cool off. She doubles down. For the next few days, the neighborhood was quieter. There was a collective sense of, maybe this is over. We even saw Harold mowing his lawn in one of his famous pineapple print shirts, looking pleased with himself. But then came Operation Smoke Sweep 2.0. This time, Laura wasn't using the HOA board. She started a petition. Door to door, clipboard in hand, catching neighbors when they were most vulnerable, getting their mail, chasing toddlers, or unloading groceries. She would start with, "Hi, I'm just collecting signatures for a healthier, safer neighborhood." Sounds harmless, right? Then she'd dive in with photos of grill flare-ups and made-up statistics. Did you know? Particulate matter from a charcoal grill can travel 3 yards into your home? That's equivalent to smoking 2 cigarettes. No citation, of course. Some neighbors signed just to make her go away. Others gave her polite "I'll think about it" nods. But a few were getting fed up. "Why is she always watching us?" I overheard one woman whisper to her husband during morning dog walk. "She wrote down how many people came to my birthday," another neighbor muttered. It was beginning to feel like we were all living in a gated reality show where the prize was the absence of Laura. Then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Friday evening. Cool breeze, golden sky, the kind of suburban peace that makes you believe in small-town charm again. I was sitting on my porch with Benji and a glass of iced tea when I heard it. Laughter. Music. And the unmistakable smell of grilled meat. I stood. It was coming from Laura's backyard. I couldn't believe it. I walked to the side fence and peeked through the slats. There she was. Laura. Hosting a full-blown backyard party. She wore a pastel apron with the phrase "Kiss the Cook" printed on it. She was flipping burgers on a gas grill that sat exactly 8 feet from her back door, 2 feet shy of the HOA's 10-foot ordinance she loved quoting. Kids ran through sprinklers, music played from Bluetooth speakers, and smoke curled up into the sky like a barbecue bat signal. I was stunned. But it gets better. Guess who was walking past at that very moment? Harold. He was taking his evening stroll, probably digesting dinner. He stopped, tilted his head, sniffed the air. Then he smiled. He followed the scent, curious, until he reached Laura's gate. He didn't knock. Just looked. Over the fence. I could hear him clear as day. "Well, well, well. If it isn't the queen of clean air grilling bratwursts." Laura nearly dropped her spatula. "Oh, Harold. I didn't see you there." He raised an eyebrow. "Looks like you're within 8 feet of the house there." "TSK TSK." She flushed. "It's a small grill. Very low smoke." Harold chuckled. "Rules are rules, Laura." She laughed nervously. "It's just a little get-together. Not an official event." "Sure." He smiled. "Mind if I take a few pictures? For the HOA newsletter?" Her face drained of color. She stammered. "That won't be necessary." But Harold had already taken out his phone. Snap. 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 Then he turned and walked away. I swear I saw him skip a little. That weekend, the photos were the talk of the neighborhood. They didn't go in the newsletter, but they did go viral, on Nextdoor. Someone anonymously posted them with the caption, "Do as I say, not as I grill?" Comments poured in. "Wait, is that Laura? Hypocrisy much? Where's the petition to ban her grill? I'm printing this out and putting it on my fridge. Can I get a free Benji shirt made yet?" Suddenly, the fear started shifting. Laura wasn't untouchable anymore. People were bolder. Mr. Lindstrom put out a brand new fire pit, with neon string lights. The Salazars hosted a karaoke cookout titled "Smoked, Sauced, and Singing." Even I started prepping a neighborhood barbecue event. I called it the Great Grill Rebellion. But Laura? She wasn't going down without a fight. She called an emergency HOA board meeting, this time, claiming the viral photos were doctored. I have reason to believe there's a smear campaign being run against me, she said, clutching a manila folder like it was national security intel. Harold simply asked, did you or did you not host a barbecue with a grill within 10 feet of your house? She tried to dodge. It was a wellness event. Outdoor cooking improves vitamin D levels. And he cut her off. Did you grill? She sighed. Yes. And did you, at any point, cite others for that exact behavior? I was enforcing the rules. Harold raised a hand. So were we. You're getting an official violation notice. She froze. You can't be serious. I'm very serious. In fact, Harold said, opening his own folder, I'm also proposing a motion to remove you from your HOA board seat, effective immediately. Gasps. Whispers. Laura's face twisted into something between shock and fury. This is a witch hunt, she snapped. Harold just smiled. No, Laura. This is called accountability. The motion passed. 4-1. She didn't even vote for herself. She just stood there, stunned. For the first time since I met her, Laura had no words. Laura didn't show her face for a full week. No pastel jogging suit. No clipboard. No spine-tingling rap on my door. It was like the queen of complaints had been dethroned and vanished into exile. But the neighborhood? Oh, we came alive. The Great Grill Rebellion I planned? It turned into a full-blown block party. We had string lights across fences, 3 grills going at once, a bounce house from the Salazars, and a playlist curated by Mr. Lindstrom's teenage daughter that had the entire street dancing by sundown. Benji wore a little barbecue chef hat and got fed at least 4 hot dogs he didn't earn. And Harold? He brought his world-famous ribs, sweet, smoky, with a kick of bourbon. He even wore a shirt that said, "Smoke responsibly." At one point during the party, he stood up on a cooler, raised a red Solo cup, and said, "To freedom. To flavor. And to remembering that a community should taste like joy, not like paperwork." Everyone cheered. It was the kind of night where neighbors became friends, the air was thick with laughter and mesquite, and kids stayed up past bedtime chasing fireflies and the scent of grilled corn. And yet, even as the embers cooled, I knew Laura wasn't done. She reappeared 2 weeks later at a neighborhood garage sale. Same hairstyle, though it had noticeably more hairspray. Same pastel power walking set. But now, instead of a clipboard, she was clutching her phone, tight. She didn't say anything to me. Just walked slowly past, sunglasses on, and muttered to herself like she was dictating legal notes into her head. I ignored it. But a few days later, she made one last power grab. She filed a noise complaint during a Sunday church potluck. Yes. Church. Apparently, the gospel choir rehearsing outdoors near the community center exceeded acceptable decibel levels. I don't know who she thought she was messing with, but word spread fast. And this time, the entire neighborhood, including the pastor, showed up to the HOA meeting. Laura tried to defend herself. It was purely procedural, she insisted. Nothing personal. Pastor Jeremiah leaned forward. Ma'am, are you aware that the Bible says, make a joyful noise unto the Lord? Laura blinked. Yes, but And yet you called the police on joyful noise? Silence. I thought it was a secular gathering, she mumbled. Harold sighed. Laura, this is not about grills. Or noise. Or even rules anymore. This is about control. And it's over. The board voted to bar her from submitting any formal complaints for the next 6 months. Unless they were approved by a majority vote. And that's when it hit me. Laura's real punishment wasn't a fine or public shaming. It was irrelevance. She had built her entire identity around managing the neighborhood like her own private chessboard. Without her clipboard, without her threats, without her surveillance patrol, she had nothing to do. No power to wield. A week later, she put her house up for sale. The listing read, "Charming home in a vibrant community. Great for family gatherings." The irony? Chef's kiss. At her open house, Harold brought brisket to welcome the realtors. When the buyers asked about the community culture, he smiled and said, "We take our barbecue seriously here. Real seriously." Laura moved out quietly on a Thursday morning. No farewell notes. No cookies. Just a pastel SUV packed to the brim and one last icy glare. As she drove past my porch, Benji barked once, just once, and I swear it sounded like laughter. In the weeks that followed, things settled into a new normal. The tension that once hung over the neighborhood like invisible smoke had lifted. People smiled more. Kids played louder. And Harold even suggested installing permanent grill stations at the park. "I'm calling it the flame of freedom," he joked. And as for me? I learned that standing up doesn't always mean shouting. Sometimes it means staying calm while the chaos burns itself out. Sometimes, the best revenge is letting people expose themselves. And sometimes the universe gives you poetic justice on a spatula. Because last week, a local magazine did a feature on our neighborhood for their top 10 most welcoming suburbs list. Guess who they interviewed? Me. Guess who they quoted? Harold. And guess whose backyard ended up on the cover? Mine, grill, picnic table, twinkle lights, and all. Right under the headline. "Welcome to the neighborhood where barbecue is a love language." Of course, everything's peaceful now. At least until the HOA newsletter announced a shade of blue ban on front doors. You guessed it. Laura's new house has a navy blue door. To be continued, maybe.